All right, everyone, welcome back into another props video. Going to be touching on the top prop bets here for this Monday night showdown between the Baltimore Ravens and the LA Chargers. Should be a fun game. Let's go ahead and get into it. But first, just a quick recap from yesterday. All right, guys, so coming in off of a really bad day yesterday, one of the worst days really thus far this year, but obviously that was something that was due to happen sometime soon. We've just been crushing over the past week or two. That's just your typical regression to the mean where we've been cashing about 73% of our bets over the past week now. 2 weeks is probably a little bit more than that, really just been crushing the bets. And so it's no shock that we had a bad day that finally happened. You know, over 40 units of profit over the past 2 weeks now. And so to have a bad day, it's kind of a weight off the shoulders, really. We knew that it was due to happen, finally happened, and now we're back to our baseline. Now, I do want to call it, like, I think I do a good job of calling this out. Like, look at all the freaking touchdowns that hit with this. Demarcus Robinson, you take away his touchdown, that hits. You take away the play in which Westbrook-Akine scores a touchdown, that bet hits. You take away Terry McLaurin's touchdown at the end of the game, where if Turpin, the Dallas returner, doesn't return a play for a touchdown at the end of the game, this one hits. That one was hitting for most. Yeah, that was the most tilting. And then Luke Schoonmaker, his was a broken play touchdown, a very large chunk yardage play. You take away that play, and that hits. So that's like the tilting part, is that you can't really be mad at Vegas for that all four of those guys have scored touchdowns. I mean, we know that's part of it. But that would have been an insane hit had you bet they're over touchdowns. But that's the name of the game. Obviously, touchdowns are fluky. We were on the bad end of the touchdowns there. Again, that's always kind of like good news, bad news. Bad news is we had a bad day yesterday. Good news is we had a bad day yesterday. Expectations for today are much higher. Typically speaking, guys, the best time to like place bets is really after a poor night or a poor stretch, because you know, as long as you're making the correct decisions and doing the correct processes, it's going to come back in a positive way. Kind of the opposite's true as well. When there's a good hot streak going on, you know that a bad day like yesterday is due to occur. I touched on that a bunch. You guys know that by now. Let's go ahead and get into today's slate. Looking at today's slate, this is a pretty high scoring game, 50 points. Okay, and it is a 2.5 point spread. Hopefully a team doesn't get blown out. Obviously, the Eagles really just crushed the Rams yesterday. That's a big variable that obviously goes into a bunch of bets. Obviously, the average Vegas line takes into account all that stuff. And so looking at it, guys, 2.5 points, high scoring game. I like that aspect of it. And if we look at some of the prop bets that we are getting, they're really kind of low lines for today. And what I mean by that is, like, look at all these receptions. Like, for a high scoring game, to have the Ravens top pass catcher be at 5 receptions, Lad McConkey, the top Chargers pass catcher, 5 receptions. Look at all the receiving yard lines as well. All kind of low for, this massively high scoring game. Same could be said for the rushing yards totals for everyone except for Derrick Henry as well. And we know the reason why that is because the production for these teams, for the most part, gets spread out, especially for Baltimore, minus Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson. Like, the pass catchers are a little bit random. Same thing for the Chargers as well, for the most part. Like, we know who it's going to be, but it's really just what type of game it ends up being. So that's the difficult part. There is a little bit more randomness to this game than typically I would like. So let's go ahead and start with the team that is pretty random in terms of their production. That's going to be the Baltimore Ravens. And again, the top prop bet that we have popping up is going to be an under fantasy score. Isaiah likely to get under his fantasy score of 6.5. We see the average sportsbook line has it at 5.82. And so again, a very good bet for us. Again, probably is going to hit if he doesn't have a touchdown. Just want to reiterate that. And now he is coming in off of a good game against the Pittsburgh Steelers, but besides that, has been on kind of a bad stretch lately. And a lot of that is due to a decrease in his snaps due to Mark Andrews seemingly being more healthy, I would assume, with Mark Andrews getting more and more snaps. Also likely was a little bit banged up as well, had a hamstring injury, but now he's good to go. Also got to factor in the fact that they have Deontay Johnson there, who really hasn't been getting a lot of snaps. One more week acclimated now to the team. Maybe he gets some more snaps. This is a difficult matchup as well, going against the LA Chargers. And so I can somewhat get behind betting the under here for Isaiah Likely, just betting on other players to have a good game. Again, it's pretty random. If he gets his over, it's probably going to be because he scores a touchdown. I'm kind of okay with that one. Obviously, the best EV bet that we have currently. And if you look at the lines that we are getting for him, I think it really sums up why. Not likely to score a touchdown. What the 9-5 data is doing is taking his line of 0.5 anytime touchdowns and then timesing that by the percent likelihood to score a touchdown, or adjusting it for the percent likelihood to score a touchdown. And so even when you do that, you add up he's at 2.5 receptions for his regular line. His receiving yards is at 25.5. You add those up, 2.5 points, 2.5 points. That's only 5 for a fantasy score. So you guys get it. And then we jump into the next best bet that we have here. Lamar Jackson get over 7.5 rush attempts. That's okay. 53% likelihood. Now, I typically don't like betting on quarterbacks with their rush attempts because it is a little bit fluky. You're really banking on some random rush attempts where the quarterback will take it and pull it rather than designed runs. Like, I'd rather bet on stuff we can know is going to happen. Like, I love betting on over receptions for guys that get manufactured touches. With quarterback rush attempts, it's always a little bit fluky to me, and I typically don't like to chase those. Then from there, I do think it's interesting to call out like Rashad Bateman and Deontay Johnson as well. Like, Rashad Bateman has been getting a lot of snaps, but I think we all know talent-wise Deontay Johnson's a better player than Rashad Bateman. And so I think it's only a matter of time before Deontay Johnson gets more and more snaps. Given the matchup that we have here with the LA Chargers as well, I kind of don't mind the idea of betting the under fantasy score for Rashad Bateman. He's due to have a bad game. He's not this good. He's due to have that typical regression. And so I could see betting his under fantasy score on underdog. We see that that's a decent line there. Zay Flowers expected to get 5 receptions. Don't really have a take there. I feel like that's just the correct move to bump it up to 5 there. So we're getting some okay bets here on PrizePicks for the Baltimore Ravens. Let's go ahead and jump on into the LA Chargers. And for the LA Chargers, the best bet that we have is going to be Ladd McConkey to get under his fantasy score as well. Now, this one's certainly an interesting one. The Ravens' weakness is definitely stopping the pass, definitely stopping opposing receivers. And Ladd McConkey has been someone that has seen his role seemingly increase each and every week thus far. Ended up having 9 targets last week against Cincy. Now, that game ended up being somewhat of a shootout. They did end up throwing the football a little bit more. But that was a game in which we thought he would have a big game, and he ended up having a big game. Now, he is a little bit banged up heading into this game. Maybe he is actually limited in this game. I personally don't really want to bet on that under, just because it is a great matchup. And honestly, Justin Herbert has looked good. I kind of expect Ladd McConkey to get more and more work in this game. So I don't know. I'm kind of hesitant to bet on that one. Probably still will, but probably just won't have that much volume to it. Justin Herbert to throw an INT 0.5, projected to get 0.64, so a decent bet there. Will Dissly for under his fantasy score is another interesting one to me. Will Dissly, he had like a breakout game during primetime football. I'm pretty sure. I remember calling it out, kind of gave myself a self pat on the back. It was an easy call. I felt like that weekend he ended up crushing. Now we have seen his snaps kind of tick down lately, which I do think is interesting. I do think it's important to call out. I feel like a lot of people are now like expecting Will Dissly to continue to have these big games. Pretty sure it was this game against Arizona. Anyways, and he has been getting the targets and he has been productive. At the same time, you do expect it to fall off. He's Will Dissly. We can see the lack of talent there. And so I can get behind this line being a little bit too high. Again, a little bit of a better bet on underdog, I would say. So if you're thinking the unders for the Chargers, Ladd McConkey, Will Dissly, you'd want to do that more so on underdog. From there, are there any other bets that really stand out to me? Not so much. I do think Quentin Johnson actually has a decent chance to have a good game. The targets have been there for him. It wouldn't be surprising to see him have a big play here or there. I think he's a good talent. Do you think it's worth calling out? Like Justin Herbert's passing touchdowns, this one seems to be like too low percent likelihood. I think this is a good traditional bet just in general, over 1.5 passing touchdowns. Again, just looking at the game, this is a good matchup. It's a high scoring game. It's a close game as well. There are going to be a lot of points projected to be scored in this game. And I would expect that to be Justin Herbert scoring those touchdowns. Now, the issue that we have with that is someone like J.K. Dobbins could certainly go out and score a touchdown. At the same time, they have been trying to make Gus Edwards work, especially on the goal line. So we're hoping for no DPIs in the end zone to have Justin Herbert get over his 1.5 passing touchdowns. That kind of does it, though, for the PrizePicks bets that we are getting. Let's go ahead and jump into underdog. And for underdog, they are, again, liking the unders a lot here. This is kind of the annoyance of some of these slates sometimes, is that a lot of the best bets that we get maybe contradict what I kind of see happening or really what I want to bet. This is a high scoring game. This is a close game. I don't really want to be betting on these unders. Now, typically speaking, underdog does value their bets a little bit higher. I will be betting these under. At the same time, I don't love it. Okay, so that's kind of the annoyance that we have. So in simple, this is going to be my underdog by the day. Don't exactly love that, but at the same time, the more times we go against Vegas, the more times we're going to be wrong. It's pretty much as simple as that. And I'm so sick of betting unders. Let's get some of these over bets popping up here, right? It's annoying. But guys, I do want to call out one other thing here real quick as well on the 9 to 5 cheat sheet, because we are getting some pretty big edges in college basketball. But first, I do want to remind you guys of the promo code that's going on the 9 to 5 website. Use the promo code Keep Cashing to get 20% off your first 9 to 5 membership. Also, guys, there are so many deals going on this week for Underdog and PrizePicks. There also will be coming up for the Christmas as well, like just the holidays. There's typically a lot of really good promos out there. And just based off the emails I've gotten from Underdog, there's going to be some good ones going on this week. Lots of tokens. So make sure to use the promo code 925 spelt out if you guys are looking to sign up for that. And then also you guys can use the promo code, the number 9 and then TO5 on PrizePicks as well. It's just an easy way to help out the channel. But let's talk about these 3 college basketball prop bets that we have that are currently popping up as really strong prop bets here. And part of the reason as to why we've had really consistent edges, and I think that's a good thing to call it consistent edges over the past few weeks, is because basketball is back. Again, touchdowns are fluky, and throughout a whole season with touchdowns, you can project it. But throughout a week, again, touchdowns are fluky. Random stuff like that happens. In basketball, it's just not as likely. You don't have one random stat typically changing the whole likeliness of a bet to hit. Now, it does happen with college basketball a little bit with blocks and steals. Those count for 3 points. That makes a difference. But for the most part, you combine all the other stats together and you're creating yourself a nice like floor for those bets. So we got 3 really good ones here, 2 for UConn and then 1 for ISU. Lipsky's a pretty solid one here, guys. 60% odds. That is massive here. And again, a lot of this is due to his projected blocks and steals. Like he's projected to get 2 steals tonight. And then like 0.5 blocks. So obviously if he doesn't get those, not as likely to hit. But if we look at it, his game log thus far this season, 2 for 3 thus far, 1 game against Kansas City. And that's the annoying part about college basketball right now is that they're playing a bunch of nobodies. At least this week this game he's going against Auburn. We should at least be locking in 30 plus minutes now for these guys. And so that's part of the reason as to why a bet like that's probably popping up. Then we are getting 2 bets for UConn. Now, again, the issue with UConn here is we look at the last few games average, terrible. Like the minutes have not exactly been there. Only getting about 30 to 28 minutes, which is not a lot. We need those extra few minutes for this over to hit. At the same time, better matchup. The production should be a little bit more concentrated here. And then same thing with Alex Garban as well. Where we're betting his over fantasy score. The average sportsbook line really likes the over for these ones. That's the biggest reason why these 2 are popping up. Vegas sees this game going much better than what PrizePicks does. And we have seen this a bunch with PrizePicks. I'm very interested to see if we will be getting underdog fantasy score lines out there because Underdog's been much more aggressive with their lines than has PrizePicks. So it'll be interesting to see if we're getting any prop line differences there with those bets. Then there are some other fantasy scores out there as well, where if you're just maybe trying to take advantage of some like prop line differences between how Vegas sees the game going and how PrizePicks does. We got Darson Garcia for over his fantasy score, Ace Baldwin Jr. over his fantasy score as well. Like we could bet these first 5 and feel like we are getting decent edges here. Not a terrible route to go on today slate as well. Now I do want to call it the 2 bets of the day here are going to be 2 bets that like correlate in the sense that if one slip is going poorly, the other one probably is going to be doing well. And what I mean by that is, and I'll show you guys the PrizePicks slip here. Let's actually start with the PrizePicks slip. It'll make more sense. And so, yes, using those college basketball prop bets as well, but looking at it, guys, like Justin Herbert to get over 1.5 passing touchdowns, I do feel like that's a good prop bet. That's one that I personally like a decent amount. Now, just referring back to the underdog slip, if we were betting on Josh Palmer and Ladd McConkey to get under their fantasy score, obviously that doesn't correlate. Okay, so that's kind of the issue with the slips is that they don't go together. They don't mix well. So chances are if one bet hits, the other one is seemingly going to be dead in the water. Same thing with Isaiah Likely here for under his fantasy score. If he's not doing well, I do think that increases the likelihood for Mark Andrews to do well and vice versa. Okay, so I did want to call that out. But again, we're using the college basketball prop bets because those are the best bets that we have on the board today. So I do want to give those out to you guys whenever possible. And I'm doing this video later on in the day, so obviously we have those bets available. But that's going to do it for today's video, guys. It should be a light day today for NFL. You shouldn't be doing too much. It's a tight board, as always. Obviously, we'd like to play that. That's why I come out with the video for that. It's more fun to get exposure to the NFL games as well. That's going to do it, though, for today's video. Again, if you guys want access to any of the tools, head on over to 9to5sports.com. Tools have been crushing it lately. Take advantage of that, guys. $10 a month when you use the promo code KEEPCASH and get 20% off. Make sure to give a like, guys. Trying to get the videos up to 100 likes per video. That does help out a lot. Comment your guys' favorite bet. That's going to be all. And as always, let's keep cashing.